He just wanted a peaceful trip, but an arrogant flight attendant shocked him by pouring a can of Coke directly onto his face, having no idea who he truly was. What happens next will leave you speechless. Watch until the end to see the jaw-dropping conclusion of this story. Subscribe to the channel, and let us know in the comments where you're watching from. JFK Airport was buzzing with activity that afternoon. At Gate 23, passengers waited to board Atlantic Sky's Flight 1120 to Chicago. Among the first-class passengers was Marcus Graham, a man in his early 40s with a calm and unassuming demeanor. Dressed in jeans, a sports jacket and a cap, Marcus was the picture of discretion. No one at the gate would have guessed he was the owner of Atlantic Sky, one of the country's fastest-growing airlines. Marcus enjoyed observing his flights in flight service without identifying himself. It was his way of directly assessing his company's customer experience, just like any other passenger. As he boarded, Marcus was greeted by Linda, a flight attendant with a stern expression. She seemed irritated, and seeing Marcus hand over his ticket gave him a suspicious look. "Is this your seat, sir?" she asked, her tone almost suggesting he didn't belong there. "Yes," Marcus replied calmly, handing her the ticket again. Linda examined it reluctantly before handing it back. "Very well, sir," she said with a forced smile, but as she walked away, Marcus heard her mutter something. He decided to ignore it, curious to see how the situation would unfold. As he settled in, Linda continued to cast looks of disdain from across the cabin. Marcus prepared himself for an uncomfortable experience, but remained calm and observant. Shortly after takeoff, Linda began serving drinks in first class. When she reached Marcus' row, her expression hardened further. "What would you like to drink?" she asked, barely hiding her displeasure. "I'll have a Coke, please," he replied politely. Linda scoffed and rolled her eyes. "Sir, we have a selection of fine wines and cocktails. Are you sure you want a Coke?" "Yes, that's what I'd like," he replied, watching her reaction closely. With a look of contempt, Linda grabbed a can of Coke from the cart and pretended to serve it normally. When Marcus was about to take the glass, she leaned over and poured the drink directly onto his face and shirt with a cold expression of satisfaction. "Oh, sorry," Linda said without a hint of remorse. "Looks like the glass slipped." Marcus wiped his face, trying to keep his anger in check, but his serious expression indicated this incident would not end well for the flight attendant. "I believe all passengers, regardless of their seat, deserve respect," he said, fixing his gaze on Linda. "Of course, sir," she replied with a sarcastic smile before moving away and whispering to a colleague, "Some people just don't know their place in first class." The flight continued, but Marcus was now determined not to let Linda's behavior go unaddressed. He knew this kind of attitude had no place in his airline. As the plane began its descent into Chicago, Marcus called over the chief flight attendant, Richard, and requested a meeting with the crew after landing. Richard, unaware of who Marcus was, assumed it was just a regular complaint, but promised to arrange the conversation. Seeing this interaction, Linda chuckled quietly, thinking Marcus was simply trying to cause trouble. After landing, the passengers began disembarking, but Marcus remained seated. Linda approached with an impatient look, eager to get him off the plane. "Sir, the flight's over. You may proceed to disembark," she said. "Actually, I have a meeting here," Marcus replied. "I need to speak with the crew." Linda shrugged and walked away, still oblivious to who he was. Richard and the flight attendants gathered near the cabin, waiting to hear what Marcus had to say. Rising from his seat, Marcus walked over to the group and pulled a card from his pocket. He handed it to Richard, who immediately paled upon reading the name, Marcus Graham, president of Atlantic Sky. Linda, watching from a distance, stepped back in disbelief. "How did you?" she whispered, her face showing shock. "I'm the owner of this airline," Marcus said firmly, looking at the entire crew, "and I'm here to evaluate our onboard service. Unfortunately, what I witnessed today was completely unacceptable." Linda began to stammer, scrambling for an excuse. "Oh, I didn't know who you were. That's irrelevant," Marcus interrupted. "You were trained to treat every passenger with respect, regardless of who they are or where they come from. Your attitude today was a clear example of disdain and prejudice, and that's something I will never tolerate in my company." Linda tried to plead, now fully desperate. "Sir, I'm sorry. It was a mistake. I didn't think." Marcus looked at her coldly. "A mistake? Was it a mistake when you poured Coke on my face, or when you made disrespectful comments about me to your colleagues?" Linda couldn't respond, her face red with shame. "Oh, hope this serves as a lesson for you, Linda," he continued, "because as of today, you are no longer part of Atlantic Sky." The other attendants exchanged glances, aware of Linda's reputation, but never having seen her confronted directly. Richard, the chief flight attendant, nodded, respecting Marcus' decision. Linda, defeated, left quietly, fully aware that her impulsive and prejudiced behavior had cost her the job. After Linda's departure, Marcus addressed the remaining crew. You represent this company and are responsible for making every passenger feel welcome. Prejudice and disrespect have no place here. Richard and the other attendants nodded, visibly impacted by the experience and by Marcus' commitment to uphold the company's values. Remember, Marcus continued, respect and excellence are the foundations of Atlantic Sky, and that principle applies to every person on board. He then thanked the crew and left the plane, satisfied that his company had delivered a lesson in respect and integrity to everyone on board. Felt the impact of this story? If you believe everyone deserves respect, subscribe and become part of a space that celebrates dignity and resilience. Join us in giving voice to stories that truly matter.